Hello, friends. Welcome to the very first episode of Kingdom Recon, a show presented by The Kingdom Says. I am excited to get this show up and off the ground. We've been talking about it for months, and I am even more excited to be joined by my two co-hosts here, who I'll have introduce themselves in just a moment. You may know my voice or my face. My name is Thomas. Tom, ArrowheadTom, Kingdom Recon Tom. I've been called it all at this point, but you could. I think I actually just changed my Twitter handle back to ArrowheadTom. Don't tell the Recon boys, but that is who I am. Getting the honor to help host this podcast with these two very knowledgeable gentlemen. So you'll see it's my left, right? I don't know how this appears to you guys, but over next to me is Josh Wingate. I'll let Josh introduce himself and just talk about what got him into the NFL draft, what got him into football, what his passions are in regard to that, and we'll go from there.
Definitely. How's it going? So me getting into the NFL draft goes all the way back to I remember watching the draft of Sean Merriman, DeMarcus Ware, and just being all into that draft and just watching that, and then having that ability to follow DeMarcus Ware throughout his career just got me even more involved into the draft. Eventually, I went to Sports Management Worldwide, took online courses for that for their GM and scouting course that they had there, which was great. Learned a lot from that. And then just getting into watching tape and learning about the players and finding out each year what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. I love it. I love watching prospects and then projecting them into the NFL. So yeah, that's what really gets me going, if you will.
Yeah, no, Josh knows his stuff, and we're very fortunate to have him. So down below us here is actually, I don't think he minds me sharing, but this is his first ever podcast he's recorded on. So we are in new territory. We have Randy Elenberger. I'm asked the same question to you, Andy. Randy, look at that. First episode, I'm already mixing up your guys' names. What got you into the NFL draft? Talk about your love for football. Why are we here today?
Right. Yeah. So my love for football it runs deep. You know, my old man's from Nebraska, played for the Huskers for a little bit. So I was raised on Nebraska football. Everything in our house was always football. So I actually got to coach college ball at the lower NAIA level and junior college level for 7 years. So it was part of my life. It was what I ate, drank, breathed for a long time. And as for the draft itself, I've always been just a football junkie, and it is literally my favorite day and event of the year. I have a battle with my wife every year. Her birthday is always it's the last weekend of April, so it's always her birthday versus me in the draft. And but I love the draft. I love it more than my birthday. I love it more than Christmas. It's what I do. It's what I love. So having this opportunity to hang out with you gentlemen and talk about this awesome aspect of the game we love is pretty sweet. So I'm pretty excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, like I said, I am excited for this crew here. And obviously, like I said, this is a draft podcast. We're going to talk about draft prospects. And if you're listening, you're probably going, wow, it is August 15th when we're recording this. I think this will come out on the 16th. We're just in the week 1 of NFL preseason, and we're already talking about the draft. But that's how it is. It's like a sickness and a passion and a love. And these guys, I respect their opinions and what they have going on for them. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment. But I do want to take a minute to stop and say, as I said at the top of the show, this is our first ever episode of the Kingdom Recon series. We are under the banner of the Kingdom Says. We are so obviously the Kingdom Says podcast. I co-host with Kyle and Garrett. We're a Kansas City Chiefs podcast. If you notice, if you've got high attention to detail, you'll look in Josh's background. You'll see a little Dallas Cowboys helmet there. Josh is a Cowboys fan. Randy, he's got the wisdom. He's also a Chiefs fan. But We want these conversations to be about more than just the Chiefs. Obviously, we're part of the branding. We're under the umbrella of the Kingdom Says. But one of the conversations I had when I was pitching this idea to these guys was creating a community where we can have these conversations, where we can grow as people who are watching and evaluating, and just connect to other people. So other people who love football. I think that's the biggest thing that brings us together. And in fact, one of the things that I've had a chance to talk with Josh before, and we go back to when Nick Bolton was drafted, and I wasn't big on Nick Bolton, and Josh was big on Nick Bolton, and I was like, I respected Josh's opinion so much, I went, all right, maybe I need to back off and just let it play out. And so, and Randy, I know I've watched you tweet through different draft prospects over the last cycle, and we get into comments here or there. I'm like, I'm not even sure who this guy is, and so it's been awesome to get to just share thoughts, and our goal is to create kind of a bigger community and an area where we are having those conversations throughout the year. So every podcast you listen to is going to ask this. Sometimes they'll slip in at the beginning or they'll slip in at the end. I'm going to do it up front again first. This is our first episode, so let me get it out of the way. We exist because we love to talk about this. We love football. We love doing this. This is not any of our full-time jobs. We're starting from the ground up here. And so I'm just going to ask, we're at your mercy. I'm just asking, if you see this video, share it with your friends, give us a like, leave us comments, give us feedback. It's our first episode, and maybe there are things that we do wrong. Maybe there's too much facial hair between the three of us and somebody needs a shave. I don't know. Whatever, we're open to those things. If you love it and you think this is the best thing ever, tell your friends, leave reviews, leave comments, leave questions. That's a big one. We want to engage with people as much as possible. As much as I enjoy talking with these two guys, the conversation is a lot more enjoyable when it's bigger than just the two of us or the three of us. So this is your invitation to join this process, to join this adventure with us, to jump on and listen to the podcast, listen to the videos. We are actually just worked with Kyle last night on our Discord channel that we're getting up. We're going to do a bunch of things as we get closer to the draft, film reviews and all this stuff. So we've got a big vision here. But the thing that's going to fuel that vision and keep us motivated to keep coming back is you guys, is the listeners, is the fans, is the people who are interacting. So maybe if you're just a football fan, maybe you're not a Chiefs fan, maybe somebody who, likes the draft, tag them in the comments, send them the link, do whatever you need to do. I'm just getting it out of the way up top. I promise we won't beg you for your support every episode, but this is our first one, and we want to get it out of the way. So we want you guys to come with us on this journey, and we are excited to be here. So that is the end of my spiel. That's the only commercial I've got for you today. So unless our editor throws some more in. So as I alluded to earlier, it is early in the process. I told Randy and Josh when we met a couple weeks ago, I just want you to pick 10 guys. We looked at the All-American lists. Just 10 guys that you are excited to watch, who are going to be in the draft next year. And so we did that. And our very talented, graphics guy, Garrett, threw them together into a list. And so each of us has a list of top 10. We're not going to talk about every prospect on this list. We will put these lists out on Twitter. You'll find them at the Kingdom Says handle, which is at Kingdom Says Pod. And we're going to throw these on the screen, and we'll block our faces for just a minute. Actually, you'll be able to see Josh and I's shoulder. Randy's getting completely blocked out. But we're going to start with Josh's list, and we're just going to kind of go through. Josh, you can lead us off. Tell us some of the highlights of the list, some of the guys that you feel like maybe people what excites you about some of the guys on this list?
Yeah, well, obviously you can tell my first 4 people are Georgia guys, so you can probably tell I'm a Georgia fan in that aspect. But there's just some really good players on that list. And then as well, we were sending over our list, and I was like, Caleb Williams isn't on the list. We need to at least talk about him. Marvin Harrison, because I know a lot of people don't want to talk about those top guys. I'm like, we have to at least mention them because they are those top guys. But Brock Bowers, and if we go back I'm probably going to forget his name, but the tight end for Atlanta right now, I can't think of his name, but
Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts, yeah, he was generational talent. I loved him. I thought he was more of a receiver than a tight end, but Brock Bowers is kind of in that mold, but just on another level. This guy, you see him do end arounds, you see him just behind the line of scrimmage take handoffs and take it for a touchdown. He can really do anything. Line up outside, line up in line. He's the next tight end in the NFL, and I would be shocked if he is not a top 10 potential top 5 pick next year. He's what everyone's going to want. And then as well, skipping over a little bit, Dejon Edwards. Many people might not have heard of him because he's not even the starter at Georgia right now. But if you watched last year, Georgia's offense didn't really take off until they started giving him more snaps. And I think he's going to explode this next season. And he's your all-around running back. He reminds me a lot of like a Sony Michel at Georgia. While I don't understand what happened to Sony Michel at the next level, I do think he has all those talents that Sony Michel has, a little more power. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year. He is just that really good runner. And then, like I mentioned, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. are just elite. Caleb Williams is that quarterback that everyone's going to suck for luck for, if you will. And Marvin Harrison is, again, next level. And you'll see I have a lot of Ohio State guys. I have so much respect for the Ohio State team after we played them in the playoffs last year. And these guys really popped off. So Jack Sawyer, he really popped off film to me as well. He reminded me, I looked at it, and it's not because of his skin complexion or anything, but he reminded me of another Bosa that goes to Ohio State. He's just that fiery guy that you watch come off the edge, and he's great. Michael Hall is just a destructor in the middle. And I did have in my mind, I was like, and this is going to be someone that we see come up again, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's just that coverage guy. And I love in today's NFL finding those coverage guys that can cover anyone. And I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Can do that. I can't say without the junior because it takes me back to early 2000s if I say Jeremiah Trotter. And then I don't know if it shocks anyone else, but Bo Nix, I think he is so undervalued in his progression because we've seen him from a freshman to now. And I think his progression that he has taken has been wonderful. And I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level because he is that guy that can run the ball. He fits that perfect mold of what a quarterback can be in the NFL nowadays. And I'm excited of what he can do at the next level as well.
Yeah, there's I have an interesting question for you. So Brock Bowers, this will be his first year of being draft eligible.
Yeah.
So if he were able to be drafted last year, if he was eligible last year, where do you think he would have went?
I think
his
stock doesn't change.
Yeah.
He's a top 10 pick regardless.
Yeah.
He's unreal.
He's a dude. Yeah. No doubt about it.
Like I can't think of a tight end in recent history that has came out, including Kyle Pitts, that is even on the same level as Brock Bowers. And Tom, you know how big of a Kyle Pitts fan I was because we were talking a lot in that draft process. I compared Kyle Pitts to Calvin Johnson. I don't.
The athletic profile makes sense.
Brock Bowers is just unreal.
Yeah, and like you said, Bowers has more of that ability to be in line and move around and some NFL offensive coordinator. Again, it'll be one of the bigger shames if Bowers ends up in a situation like Pitts does in Atlanta where they just don't know how to use him. But I feel like he's just so talented. You would have to be you should lose your job pretty quickly if you can't figure out how to get that kid the ball.
Get that dude the ball. He reminds me of his athletic ability and kind of prowess, but you kind of cross that with like a Jeremy Shockey attitude. You know what I mean? So he's got that physicality, he's got that attitude to hype you up. He's got a lot of athletic ability where he can really do a lot of different things. So I mean, he's going to be one of those dudes that's, if he can put it all together, he's going to be a matchup nightmare for a lot of people. So
yeah, and his ability to catch the ball at the high point is next level as well. Like he goes up and gets the ball, and he's special. If you can't see my face right now, I should like move over. I'm just like salivating over this guy right now.
Yeah. Well, and then we say all that, and it's like you also have the generational prospect of Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Another name that should, a lot of juniors lately in these draft classes are making me old, but another one that should, if you don't know about Marvin Harrison Jr., the same thing where, guys even last year were watching him, at pro days and going, man, I wish we could get him this year,
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting at the top of the draft to know that you've got two unique generational prospects at two very important skill positions. And like I said, you mentioned Caleb Williams, there's Bo Nix. There's a couple other quarterbacks in this draft class that Drake May is another one from North Carolina who stand out. And in fact, I've got a quarterback on my list that we'll talk about. I wanted to ask before we move on, tell me a little bit more about is it Amarius Mims? He's moving from right to left tackle this year, if I remember right.
Yeah, he is. I'm curious of that transition. He is like someone that could make that move in the NFL, but I don't believe he has given up a sack in the college level yet. He's given up some pressures, but he's just a stonewall. If I remember correctly, he is 6'7". I'm trying to 6'7", like 330 pounds, I believe. He's just a dude. He is a legit dude, and you forget about him in the game, and that's a perfect thing to have as an offensive lineman. He is just a special player. Going through this, I was going through what people are ranking the players already for 2024, and I saw him so low, and I'm like, how is someone that hasn't given up a sack in 2 years of NFL play? Let's see, he has no QB hits in his time, and he just has a total of 3 quarterback hurries. How is he ranked as one of the lower? I think they have the website I'm at has him ranked as the 13th player at offensive line. Wow. Has him as a projected 3rd round pick. I'm like, I don't know who this website is. I'm not listening to them. But he's special. And in my opinion, if I'm looking at him, I'm going to give him the opportunity to play left tackle, because left tackle is that special position. But at 6'7", 330 pounds, if I can have that stone wall over there on the right side, I'm perfect with it. Yeah, he's just a special athlete. I think he's going to be great at the next level.
Yeah, he had a very similar trajectory to the tackle that was taken last year out of Georgia, whose name I'm blanking on. Played a little bit all over the offensive line.
Blanking on it too. I don't know why.
Played left tackle last year.
You'll find out in your time with me. I am off. Like ever since having a child, I am awful with names. You turn into a parent and you just don't remember anyone's name. It's like I even call my daughter by my dog. So
yeah. Hey, as long as you don't call your daughter any of the draft prospect names, then you might get in trouble. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Randy, do you have any questions or anybody on this list that you want to talk about? I'm about to move to your list, but I want to give you a chance.
No, we're good. He's got.
You don't have any Bo Nix takes?
Yeah, he's Bo Nix. If he can put it all together, if he can get everything on the same page, he can put it together. I mean, he can be great. I mean, he's got a ton of talent. He's maybe not taking the road most traveled, but when his opportunity comes up, if he can put it together, I think he can do some pretty good things. You got some dudes on your list. Bowers is a beast. Everyone knows Bo Williams and Harrison.
Yeah.
I mean, so we got some blue chippers there. It's a nice list.
Yeah. I definitely, like I said, I think Bo Nix will be an interesting one. We'll talk about more down the stretch. All right, let's move to Randy's list. I said kind of before the show, Randy stole all my guys. And he got his list in first, and I was like, oh man. So, Randy, tell me about the guys that you picked and what do what stood out? What were some
Right.
things that you're really excited?
When I was going through my list, looking through all the preseason All-Americans and stuff like that, kind of looking for guys I think fit those mold of guys that I think would be good fits for the Chiefs, guys that especially guys like Joe Alt, number one on my list right there.
Yeah.
His dad was a chief for 13 years. Joe Alt. So like I said, I'm the chief of the North. I'm up here in Minnesota. I'm one of the smart football fans up here. But Joe Alt's a Minnesota kid. He's got ties to Kansas City. He is he's a first round top 10 dude. Guys like Cooper Beebe. He's got a little bit of a connection. To me, I'm an NDSU grad. Coach Kleiman and his staff down there at Kansas State, I think, is doing awesome things. I've worked with Coach Riley back in the day on offensive line camps. I've worked at NDSU camps. Coach Riley knows how to coach O-line, and that's just the way it is. He churns out some dudes, and when you sit there and you look at Cooper there, he can play, or he has played so far, every position on the offensive line except for center. Super diverse guys. Guys that have a little bit of a connection to me in my area, kind of guys that I looked at, and even just some flashier dudes that maybe I didn't know so much about right away, like Kool-Aid McKinstry. Why does he go by Kool-Aid? I wanted to dig in and kind of get some of those backstories and stuff. I went with a kicker. Kickers are people. It's everybody. You're gonna get different views and different aspects from everybody as we go through these, and our lists are always going to be different. And I think it's important to maybe include some of the guys that aren't necessarily the top tier blue chip guys, names that everybody knows. That's why I threw a guy like Malachi Corley in there, kid from Western Kentucky. Might not know too much about him. He's a fourth team preseason All-American. But when you go back and you kind of dig into some of that stuff, it's just kind of fun, the stuff that you learn. They called him last year, he's the Yak King of college football. The kid had 101 catches for over 1,200 yards. 975 of those yards was after the catch.
Whew,
he broke.
That is impressive.
So when that dude gets the ball in his hand, granted, he was Western Kentucky. He's not a top, he's not a Power 5 conference kid. He's 5'11", 210 pounds, but he's blazing fast and he's exciting with the football in his hands. Stuff like that. So, my list, I kind of went round and round with guys who I wanted, but Joe Alt, Cooper Beebe too. I'm a big fan of both of those dudes. I wanted to learn a little bit more about Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. I love Iowa DBs. I think they're built a little different. They're tough dudes. They're Big Ten guys. Cooper DeJean came from a tiny little town and was pretty much Mr. Everything for his high school. He played quarterback. He played DB. He returned kicks. I was just reading up on some of this stuff. In last year's state title game, there was a 2-minute span to where he recorded 2 tackles, returned a punt for 4 yards, completed 2 passes for 52 yards, rushed 3 times for 22, and scored 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion.
So busy man.
He's a super versatile dude. He loves to play football. He's a physical guy. You dig into some of these guys that you necessarily don't know so much about right away, and you learn all these fun little things. And it's an aspect like that. That's a 2-minute span of him doing a whole lot of different things. So. Cooper's a very versatile guy. He returns kicks and he plays corner. Fast, physical dude. Love watching guys like that. You go through my list a little bit more. It can be a little bit of a position need too for the Chiefs down the line. I picked 2, wrecking ball interior defensive line guys. Jazon Newton out of Illinois and Chris Jenkins out of Michigan. Both very similar in their style. Size as well, but they're dynamic, physical, athletic dudes that can really cause some problems when it comes to playing on the wrong side of the line of scrimmage. Penetration always kills plays, and these guys are both really, really good at it. We have a familiar face, just from the list before, Jeremiah Trotter. You're getting to see some of these NFL guys, kids, entering the league, so there's a pedigree there of some pretty serious athletes and ability. That kid, he's a tackling machine. He is a true sideline to sideline guy that can literally do anything that you want a linebacker to do. The only thing, a little bit downside to him is, he's not ideal size. He's 6 foot, he's 230 pounds. But he's got the ability to literally cover and do anything. He can blitz, he can cover, he can stand his own in the run game. His downside, like I said, size-wise, when you're running right at him, might not be the strongest at the point of attack, but when it comes to a chase and tackle dude, he's pretty awesome. My other guy here I haven't talked about yet, Rome. I think him and Penix in Washington are going to do some fun things. He's ideal size, for a big X receiver, 6'3", 213. 75 catches. He had over 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's one of those go up and get it type guys too. When I sit there and I watch some film on him and I do some reading and I look at his size and stature and I look at some of the things he does, he reminds me a lot of Rashee Rice. Similar build, similar game plan. They can go up and get the ball. They're physical after. They are willing and effective blockers on the outside and the perimeter as well. So he's a well-rounded guy. And he's in that top 3, 4, 5 wide receivers in the conversation when it's all said and done. So, and then I got my boy Josh Carty, kicker.
Yeah,
Our people too. We got to cover these dudes too. Yeah, Carty's he was a Groza finalist last year. He's on the watch list again this year. He had a perfect 18 of 18 on field goals last year with a long of 61. Okay, so he's got a big leg. His accuracy is 24, 25 on extra points. Granted, Stanford might not be where Stanford was a few years back, but still, they're going to be playing in some big games, and they're going to rely on that dude to win some games for him. So to have a kicker like that, good size. He's 6'2", he's 200 pounds. He's got a big leg. He's got a lot of range, and he's accurate. So
61 yards, no joke.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's one of the, I don't know if it's the longest field goal in NCAA history, but he's definitely one of the longest history for sure. So, so that's my list of guys. It's blue-collar, hard-hitting dudes, some guys I didn't necessarily know a whole lot about to begin with, and, that I'm interested in learning some more. And then, some dark horses like Malachi Corley. Watch that guy with the ball in his hands, man. It is fun.
Yeah. I haven't actually before your list, I saw you, but just hearing you talk about him, I need to go look him up and
right
to get my eyes on him. I'm a big fan of Rome, Dunze, I think that's how you say his name, out of Washington. He's one of those guys I think works against him that he plays in the Pac-12. Well, what's left of it, but
4 right now, is it?
Yeah. I got to be careful because I don't want to come in with some big bold take, but I have him right now as my number 2 guy, and he's like 6'3", 215. Yep. He did remind me of a very good. I'll just say it because he's been hurt the last couple of years, so maybe people won't roast me, but like a little bit of Michael Thomas to his game in terms of like ability to snatch the ball downfield.
Right.
And so. Also a huge fan of Chris Jenkins. I think he's going to end up really climbing the boards, but and Jerzon Newton, both those guys. So this is a really healthy defensive tackle class. It could shape
your D-line class this year should be fun to watch. It's a lot of solid, a lot of impressive dudes there for sure.
And Chris Jenkins is also, if you're going, that name seems familiar. Yes, the son of Chris Jenkins.
And another uncle, Cullen Jenkins. So that's a family of some serious defensive linemen. So
yeah. So no, and man, I didn't even realize. I didn't even put together the Joe Alt connection. That's awesome. So I'll save that for when we get to my list. Josh, anybody on this list that stands out to you? Anybody you got questions about or want to highlight? Because it's pretty different from your list.
Yeah, Joe Alt is obviously a guy that all of us probably love. And what stood out to me is, as Randy was talking about these guys, he mentioned Cooper. I'm going to probably mess his name wrong, but Dijon. And in that process, he said he just really likes Iowa guys. And it just brought me to the idea of we're not supposed to scout the helmet, but there are guys that go to certain schools. And once we watch film, we're like, okay, they're taught right at that position. And Notre Dame is one of those. And I believe for a moment there, Notre Dame lost their highly regarded offensive line coach to the NFL. I believe he has fully came back, and he is training these guys throughout. And Notre Dame just throws out offensive linemen like no other. And same, while Randy likes the cornerbacks at Iowa, and we don't have one on here. I saw Washington here, so that's what made me think of it. I really enjoy cornerbacks from Washington as well.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, that's fully what made me think of that. And then also Alabama does throw out some good corners as well. So Kool-Aid is going to be someone that I'm excited to get in a little deeper, see how he progresses from year to year, things of that nature. So.
Yeah, and so I did have to go back and figure out why they call him Kool-Aid, but his grandma gave him that nickname.
Yeah.
Shortly after birth, it said the smile reminded her of the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, there you go.
And he's got an NIL with Kool-Aid since his freshman season already. So
right.
Wow,
that's a cool one to have.
Yeah,
that's a top tier nickname.
Right.
There's a couple of names
sure.
We'll get into. So, all right, we're gonna hop over to my list, last and probably least. So I picked a couple guys, and I did cheat. I told you guys we could cheat, but you guys didn't do it. So let me get the elephant out of the room. Clemson linebackers. That's right. I picked the whole position group. So both those guys. We've talked about Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but his running mate Barrett Carter is also intriguing as kind of that modern athlete at linebacker, and really is. I'm excited to watch both those kids. So we'll hop down. So Michael Penix Jr. We just talked about his receiver and at Washington, and you're going, something I want to point out again. I'm a Chiefs guy, but I still want to watch these quarterbacks, right? Are they going to be? Do we need to replace Patrick Mahomes? No, but it's still fun to watch some of these guys play and think about. So Penix has had such an interesting journey in his college career, and he'll come out as a little bit older of a prospect than most, but he had such a good year last year for Washington. If he has another one, it's going to be hard to keep him really out of the first round conversation. And then I've got a trio of defensive ends or edge positions. So Jared Verse, who I think would have been a top 10 pick last year, but went back to school, wants to finish his education, thinks that FSU has a chance to compete for a national championship. Dude is built in a lab. He's so much fun to watch and just plays the game with just all around, sets the edge, does all the little things right that you want to see in the trenches. And, it's hard to say his draft stock will improve, but it's just so much fun to watch. I couldn't not have him on the list. We just talked about great names, Kool-Aid. Another great name, Chop Robinson out of Penn State. Phenomenal name for a defensive end. Penn State just churns out these athletic freaks at defensive end every couple of years, and Chop is one of those guys, and got some areas to clean up. But I'm excited to see his growth. And then the last of the edge or defensive ends is Latu. I think that's how we say it. That's not how you say it. I guarantee it. But he's a guy who, again, another interesting career path, had some medical issues, but really was productive last year. And for UCLA, I just kind of heard about him recently, and I was like, all right, I got to get eyes on him. We'll do the two offensive tackles. So Olu Fashanu, who's probably a top 5 pick I think he'll be coming out at 20 years old. He reminds me, Josh, you'll appreciate this. He reminds me a little bit of Tyron Smith, mostly just because they both came out really young. But and I don't know. We'll see if Olu has a similar year. I think you can make a similar argument. But Tyron was like the bluest of blue chip prospects. I vaguely remember that. But yeah, just Olu Fashanu at a Penn State is just a from my money is the the guy who's everyone's going to want at the top of the draft to be their franchise tackle. The other guy on the list, Kingsley. I really should have picked easier names to say. This is my own fault. I did this, guys. Sil Mattia at a BYU.
Hit the ground. Hit the ground running.
What was that?
The guy hit the ground running because we're gonna have to roll through them anyway.
Yeah.
One, if there's ever a notable prospect from BYU, the Chiefs are going to look at him because Andy Reid just loves his BYU guys. But this happened just today. Bruce Feldman dropped his freaks list, and Kingsley was number 3 on that list. So he is a big dude. I think he originally committed to Oregon and transferred over to BYU. I am really intrigued with him as a kind of a bigger tackle with those athletic traits that you kind of covet, and seeing if he can kind of round out his game. It was rough at times, and but another year of experience, some more reps. I think that he's going to be a starting caliber tackle. There's a part of me that really wants to buy into his upside and gets pretty excited about it. But like if you're talking about like towards the end of round 1 and you're looking for a tackle, I think this could be a guy who you would be lucky to grab. Next, maybe we talked about names and all that. One of my favorite names on this list, Dante Corleone, the Godfather. Another member of the Bruce Feldman's freak list. He is old school. I mean, he's a nose tackle, right? He is beefy, but he's got some juice to him. Like he is, just incredibly strong. You watch him in the middle of Cincinnati's defense, you're just like, dude, why isn't anybody? Nobody's moving because he's holding them there.
Is that the dude that did, 45 reps at 225 or something like that?
Probably, yeah. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, no, he is. I'm excited to see where he's at. Again, nose tackles are underrated. And I had a comparison for him, and I'm totally losing it. You'll have to forgive me, but I just nose tackles. Just like running backs are one of those like guilty pleasures for me. It's like it doesn't even matter if we don't need one. It doesn't matter. I just can't get enough of them. So speaking of the last one on my list is a running back. I know nobody wants to draft a running back, but Michigan's Donovan Edwards. I just thought he's in the backfield with Blake Corum. Blake Corum's a good football player. I just enjoyed watching Donovan Edwards play more, and he got some run down the stretch when Corum got hurt. I think Edwards has just a better athletic profile and just seems to be a little bit more electric. Oh, I guess I'm forgetting Keith Randolph Jr., another nose tackle out of Illinois. So his teammate that Randy had on his list, Jajon Newton, is more of your traditional like 3-tech pass rusher. He's really well rounded, but Keith Randolph is a big dude, and same thing. He's gonna 2-gap for you. He's gonna hold the line of scrimmage and play the run really well. So those are my guys. Like I said, I cheated and went with 2 linebackers instead of just 1. But you can kind of see a theme, right? There's a lot of defensive and offensive line, a couple skill positions. Probably should have put a wide receiver or 2 in there, but that's, I think, fun to watch, hard to scout. I'll put it that way.
Right.
They never let me play wide receiver at any point in my life. So do you guys have any thoughts, questions, anything you want to know? I have I have all the information about every one of these prospects except for how to pronounce their names correctly. So don't ask me that.
Jared Verse he is fun to watch coming off the edge. He's one of those dudes that can really change a game and kind of take things over. If he's on his game and he gets a good matchup, watch out. That dude, he can wreak some havoc. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Chop Robinson, you're right there. He's got a great name for an edge, man. And you're right. Penn State, every couple of years they churn out a dude who's just built and looks the part. They got some dudes that can play in the trenches. So, and you pair Chop, and he's going to get to go against Fashanu all the time. Those two going against each other every day in practice is just going to make each other better throughout the course of the season. If they can both stay healthy, those are a couple fun dudes to watch. They're gonna develop pretty nicely. So, some good dudes.
Yeah, and I in that you were mentioning Donovan Edwards, and he came on late last year, and I just thought he's dynamic. He might be someone in the draft process that he doesn't have that full athletic makeup that everyone's looking for at the running back position, but he is just a playmaker with the ball in his hands. Whenever any way you can get him the ball, he's just a big play threat in that process. So people might look at him and say, oh, he can't run a 4.3, 4.4 40, and say he's probably a third, fourth round pick. And then once you get to that third, fourth round and you grab him, you're grabbing someone that's normally top of the line prospect at the running back position.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's going to be one of those guys that people are going to go, wait a minute, how did he, fall as far as he fell? So, all right, Randy's back with us. At least you could see his face again.
The shoulder joined us too.
Yeah, probably enjoyed it better with the picture over it, but it's all good.
Yeah. So to close out the show, one of the things that we talked about, and just for those who have stuck with us this long. We did not compare these lists beforehand, but we were talking about trying to get into the mindset of scouting and wanted to start thinking about some kind of pro comparisons or what are some kind of models. And so I asked them. I asked Josh and Randy to come today with a list of. We're talking about quarterbacks. So if you have no interest in quarterbacks, you can make sure to subscribe and rate, and you can leave the podcast now, or you can stick around for this, what I think is going to be a good conversation. So I asked them 3 categories. The first one is the prototype, which is, who is the guy that the NFL is looking for? Who's the copy and paste? And these are all going to be current players, as pro examples. But past examples I used, Andrew Luck was one. John Elway was one, right? Number 1 overall pick. Peyton Manning. They're from day one, this is the guy that you pull out of the movies to play quarterback. And then the second category was the anomaly, which is who is a guy who is successful that probably shouldn't be successful, right? And what are the traits about him that make him successful despite that? So whether that's, he's not as tall or not as fast, his arm's not as strong. So I used examples in the past of, like Drew Brees was really short. Tom Brady was a 6th round pick, those types of things. And then the last one, which I'm looking forward to maybe the most, was what is the floor? What is the very least you need out of a player, to win a Super Bowl at the quarterback position? So that's the conversation we're about to delve into. And I think we're going to have some interesting answers. But let's start with the prototype. Who did you guys have for your prototypical quarterback in the NFL today?
So,
take away.
Yeah, no, I was going to. So you threw me off there because I broke down your example there. You said built in the lab player, someone who could be successful in any situation. And I'm taking that in. Okay, we take them from the team that they are from, and you throw them on any team, and they would be successful. And it's a hard one because we also said, I believe in our process, we can't say Pat Mahomes because he's the freak. Obviously, everyone's answer is Pat Mahomes. Yeah. But I was looking at this, and some people might say Joe Burrow and situations like that. He was delved a perfect situation. I look at this and I think Lamar Jackson is someone that you can grab from his current team and he can be successful in any situation, because I say that for two things. His receiving core has been trash every year other than when he had Steve Smith. And he had Steve Smith, right?
Maybe if it was,
maybe,
it was
possibly.
1 year.
Maybe, I don't know. He had someone, but from there, his offensive coordinator has been complete trash and put him in trash situations his entire career. So with those two things, I think you can take him and put him in a less than ideal situation, and he could be successful with the skill set that he has of running. He has a really strong arm. While he's not the most accurate, he can make plays like off platform and things of that nature that I really like in a quarterback. So I think Lamar Jackson could be that prototypical QB.
I like that answer because that's definitely not one I expected.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. Like, again, somebody who has enough talent that no matter where you're going to fit, and again, built in the lab. Like if you could, I think most teams would be pretty interested in having a Lamar Jackson. Again, there's, I think we said, obviously Pat Mahomes, and I don't know if we said it was a hard rule, but he's going to come in in there somewhere.
We all three could say Pat Mahomes, and everyone was okay. Yeah, that's right.
We agree.
I didn't put Pat on my prototype because he's not necessarily a prototype. I do have Lamar Jackson on my list here, but I have him in the anomaly. Because he is a supreme talent, and there's no doubt about it. And you can pretty much plug him into wherever he wants to go. But when you look at him, successful despite having some non-traditional value, like he is not a great thrower of the football. He's a phenomenal athlete. He can get himself into good positions. But if it comes down to it, and it's it's 2 minutes, it's the fourth quarter, the final drive, you got to win a game, and we're throwing the football, I am not picking Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what he does with a new offense coordinator, though.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Roman? Greg Roman just didn't put him in good situations and didn't trust him. And I think he's getting the Georgia offense coordinator this year from last year, and he's going to do anything to put a quarterback in a perfect situation. As we can see, Stetson Bennett, who in my opinion is a complete trash quarterback. While he won me a national championship, I don't like him as a quarterback. We won in spite of him most times. Yeah. I think we won in spite of him, and the offense coordinator put him in a really good situation. So we'll see what he does with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Well, Lamar is an interesting player in this conversation just because he, I think I'm right between you two because I think that I tend to agree that he's not the guy I want in the fourth quarter necessarily, but I also agree that he hasn't always been put in the best position, and that his talent is so elite and so rare that he would, I think, be successful. You could make an offense around him in just about any situation. So, Randy, who was your prototype for quarterback?
My prototype. So, the prototypical quarterback has kind of changed and evolved, over the last few years with guys being more athletic, a little bigger, a little faster, stronger type guys. But I still look for those ideal measurements, the 6'3", 6'4" guys. So I have 4 dudes on my prototypical list. It's Joe Burrow, it's Josh Allen, it's Justin Herbert, and it's Trevor Lawrence. Tall, athletic, fast, smart guys. Josh Allen doesn't necessarily make the best decisions all the time, and he's a little loose with the football. But if you look at Joe, Josh, Justin, and Trevor, those guys, they're all 6'3" to 6'6". They're all athletic. They all have big arms. They're all smart dudes. You put them in nearly any system, period, and they can be effective. They're Burrow's super accurate. Allen is super athletic, big, strong dude. He could stand in the pocket. Same with Herbert. I don't like giving Herbert props because he's a Charger, but I got to put him on the list. He's a dude. And Trevor Lawrence, I think, is finally coming into what everyone thought Trevor Lawrence could be as that number 1 pick a few years ago. now that he's got a little bit better talent and some better coaching down there in Jacksonville. So those are my 4 prototypical guys. Like I said, Lamar Jackson could have been on that list, but I put him in the anomaly just because he is more of a runner, not a super accurate thrower of the football. And even I put our boy Pat on the anomaly list because coming out of Texas Tech, watching him do some of the barnyard, school ground stuff, like that's not normal stuff. He's not super tall. He's 6'2". He's not incredibly fast. The way he can improvise in a football game, I think it just puts him on a completely different level on stuff like that. So
yeah, well, so I had a couple names that you just mentioned on my list for the prototype, but then the one that I settled on, I think, and I'm not saying this just for shock value, but I just went like, if you could copy and paste, and again, excluding Pat Mahomes, right, a quarterback today. And just like who has everything, who checks the most boxes the most consistently, and I really thought I was going to end up with Joe Burrow, and up until probably about 48 hours ago. So for the Bengals fans who are going to hate, like I was set on Joe Burrow, and then just kind of going back over. So here's my prototype, right, for the NFL today. The guy who's on the other side of the field in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts. I think you have a guy who has the athleticism. He has the leadership. He has enough of the arm talent. Again, it's hard. I'm not going to pretend like I watch Jalen Hurts all the time. I was a big fan of him coming out of college. And I just remember one of the things that coaches were talking about were like his intangibles and that type of thing. I think that he has shown the ability to play with a really high floor. And I also think that he has a little bit more athleticism than some of the other guys on the list. I also think that the ability to just always QB sneak for a yard is really valuable. It is kind of a cheat code. I know that that's more than just him, but he's a big part of that. I think that he really gives you, and he literally just played in the Super Bowl, so pretty dang good player overall. So, and again, I don't think any of these are not necessarily wrong, because I'm going, well, how did I make the right choice? But this is like, who do you? Because when we're you're looking at college kids, you're comparing them to the pros, right? Who can you find somebody who's like a Jalen Hurts? Can you find a Joe Burrow? Can you, one of the things that happens a lot is people compare Caleb Williams to Patrick Mahomes, which just isn't fair. Don't compare people to Patrick Mahomes.
No, don't.
Especially before they got in there.
He was built like, if you think of Pat Mahomes, he was built kind of like Batman. Like he was, because he didn't have a great offensive line in Texas Tech. He didn't have a great defense in Texas Tech, and he just had to, in adversity, just do things, and it was just unreal. I will say another player that we're not talking about because he is older and further along in his career, but Matthew Stafford, I feel like could go in that prototypical quarterback as well.
I had Matt Stafford on my prototypical list, but then I thought back, I was like, 13 years ago, Matt Stafford.
Oh yeah,
yes,
pocket,
unreal,
huge in the pocket, gunslinger.
Stafford is still on my list.
Yeah,
just not in
somewhere else. Yeah, no spoilers.
As well, I like how we're hyping up Jalen Hurts, and we have a already copy paste of Jalen Hurts in the NFL of Dak Prescott. The same kind of mentality. While Jalen Hurts runs a lot better than what Dak does, they're kind of the same makeup of a player. So we kind of have the two, and I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan just because of that mentality that he has. Any player that comes into the NFL with that mentality, they're just set above someone else, and I'll trust them in their process of being a great quarterback.
All right, so we're closing in on the hour mark, and we're going to bear with us, folks. We'll probably go a little bit over that, but I want to get to our anomaly list. So we're going to make sure. So let's just do one. Who's your biggest anomaly? Josh, let's go you, and then we'll go Randy, and then we'll come back to me.
Mine's Tua. Tua has been more successful in his career than I anticipate. And while I would never put him as the floor because I don't think he's a Super Bowl quality player, I think he should just be washed away to the wayside. I'm not a Tua fan. If you watch me on any of my other shows, I'm not a Tua fan. He doesn't have the arm strength. He can't make throws off platform. His processing. Once you get past like 3 seconds of him knowing where a player should be, he struggles processing a defense. So I'm not a Tua fan, and I think he's right now the anomaly as people are calling for him to be an MVP this year, last year. I'm shocked.
Randy, I'm gonna cut you because my anomaly was also Tua.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't compare notes beforehand, but a guy who's kind of starting, and even just like left-handed, injury history, seems like a good kid and all that stuff. But and I will give him credit to say he's made some plays I didn't think he could make last year. At the same time, he's shown a lot of what you said, right? Reading defenses, breaking it down. There's just a lot of things I went, I don't know how he's maintaining, and we'll see. I think this season's a big one for him, but they seem to have a lot of confidence in him. I don't know if I have the same one. And it's interesting because when I originally asked that, I was thinking of like some of the Josh Allens or whatever who are really super successful. But when I really looked at the list of quarterbacks across the NFL, I went, the one that's most surprising to me is Tua. That I'm going, yeah, like he's in these conversations for Pro Bowls and MVPs, and he's not. There's a lot of factors that make you go, he probably shouldn't be. And I don't mean just from his production standpoint. I'm just the injury history and the being left-handed and the processing. I'm just like, it's really interesting his situation. And also, I think that when you have we talk about injury prone and all that stuff. Injuries take hard work to come back from. And there's got to be some intangible things there with him. And like I said, that organization really believes in him. So it kind of took a negative spin, but I agree with you, man. Tua was my guy. I just went, yeah, he's the one who kind of stands out. The other one I had was actually Randy. I'll go because I don't want to steal yours just in case it's the one I had.
Yeah, so in my last guy in the anomaly, I had Jalen Hurts on the anomaly as well, just for a couple of different reasons. But Russ Wilson, he's that short dude. He's a small guy. I don't think if it wasn't for that graduate season that he had at Wisconsin and the way he diced people up that season, and then coming into a great situation in Seattle where he was able to win a Super Bowl. But he's one of those guys, he's not super tall, he's not super fast, but he's sneaky athletic. He's got a big arm. I think you can see the wear and tear showing on him now. But when we were saying, not the traditional value traits, we're talking Brady Breeze, I think he just kind of fit in that. Not the guy you draw up, but plenty enough intangibles to where he was able to pull some things off and have a pretty decent career, and win some football games, including a Super Bowl. So Russ was my last anomaly guy.
Yeah. The other guy on my list was Kyler Murray, who just feels like I know he's probably not going to play much this season. Just the whole Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury experiment feels like a fever dream. But just his whole story, I just look I feel like 10 years from now we're gonna look back. It's like, hey, remember that guy who everybody thought was gonna go to baseball and then decided last minute to go to the NFL, and then was the number one overall pick by a coach that got hired from college after never having a winning season at college, despite having Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback and some other NFL quality. It's just wild. But
can we also talk about Whopper Jr.? Kenny Pickett, is he an anomaly with his baby hands?
With his baby hands, we're yet to see. Yeah, we're gonna alienate half the fan bases out there before the end of this episode. So, last one. I think this is where we're gonna get into it. So, and again, we'll pick one. So pick. Just for the sake of time, who is the floor? Who is the minimal amount of talent, the least production, however you want to define it, from your quarterback that you need to win the Super Bowl. In years past, we've talked about, I use the example of like Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco with the Ravens, years ago. Does not really the same NFL as it is, as it was then. So thinking more modern day, what is the very minimum that you need to win a Super Bowl? So who's your player?
I'll let Randy go this time.
Yeah, so this is where I slotted in Matt Stafford. 13 years ago, whatever, he's a prototypical guy. Now, still a big, big, strong dude, big arm. But you need to have some pieces around Matt Stafford now for him to be successful. And we saw that in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. He always put up numbers in Detroit, could never get over the hump, get into the playoffs, win those big games. You throw him in at the Rams, and you surround him with some supreme talent, and you put some players around him, and it's kind of the perfect storm to fit what he has left in the tank. So that was kind of my floor guy. Once upon a time, he was the dude. Number one overall pick, but now in today's NFL, he has that skill set that you could do, but he needs a lot of help. So that's where I kind of put him as my floor dude.
That's a perfect answer. I thought about Matt for a while on my list. So, Josh, what do you think?
So my floor is going to be someone new, came into the league last year, and it's going to be Brock Purdy. I think he's someone that can control the ball, and that's what you need at the bare minimum of a quarterback in order to go to the next level. I also, last year, we saw that in clutch situations, he can make a play for that team to elevate them to score a touchdown, or in situations where they need to, he makes the play for them. Where I think that's what the bare minimum you need is to protect the ball and to make a play when needed. And that's why Brock Purdy's my guy. I also put on there Jimmy G. They're those two guys. So yeah.
Yeah, there goes all of our Chiefs fan listeners. Yep, they're all gone now.
I apologize.
Yeah, no. Jimmy G is an interesting one. I'm interested to see how it works out in Vegas for him. So I thought about Stafford. I want to give some love to Jared Goff because I really thought about that one as well. I think he gets slept on a little bit, but I kind of went with a different one, and I'm going to, say this correctly. So I felt like, when you're talking about the minimum that you need, I went with Dak Prescott, and not in the sense that he's the least talented that you like in a minimal sense. I mean, like the floor to win a Super Bowl, to have a championship level quarterback is a lot higher than I think it's ever been. And I think Dak, I'm not saying this because Josh is here, but I think he's forgotten about a lot. And there's holes in his game and all that stuff. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but I'm just looking at it going, okay, who on this list is, could I see, getting there and making it work. And, just felt like Dak was the guy who has the talent, has, like you said, the leadership, kind of has, and it'll be interesting to see how it is without Zeke. I know he's been kind of in and out, but just really that as that offense has tailored around him. I don't know if he'll be able to do it with McCarthy as his coach, but I felt like that was like the minimal. Like you have to be at least that talented, which is a pretty high bar. Like that was my thought process, because I like I said, I looked at like guys like Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr and some other guys. I'm like no, and I got to Dak Prescott and I was like, yeah, that's like you got to be at least that good. And so I really, and I hope that, one day if the Chiefs decide they don't want to win a Super Bowl one year, if they want to take a year off, then maybe we'll see. That's for your sake, Josh. But no, boys, we're at an hour and 5 minutes. We have done it. Anybody have, this is your chance, any closing thoughts before I take us home?
No,
man, this was fun. It's fun to sit here and talk ball with you guys, and it's interesting to see kind of where our eyes go when we're looking at potential prospects and then kind of where our thought processes go when it comes to talking about some guys and seeing where they fit and what they do. So I'm pretty pumped. This is going to be a good time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited too. I'm excited to get more film because in this process, you don't have a lot of film on prospects that are coming out this year. We're still gathering that information.
They're still in.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do, and I'll tell you, I'll never talk about a player that I haven't put eyes on before. And that's basically why you saw the list that I did have earlier. I had eyes on those guys. I'm excited to get in and go a little deeper on some of these prospects and find guys that people aren't talking about, like a Nick Bolton or Jeremiah Wusu-Koromoa or someone like that, that I'm just going to get super hyped over that no one else is excited about.
That's the best part. And then your team doesn't take him and you're brokenhearted.
Yeah, so heartbroken.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you everyone for listening, for watching. We're excited to be on this journey with you guys, and we hope that you'll stick around and be with us. Again, send us DMs, like, rate, follow, share. I mean, you guys know how to do it, but thank you for sitting here for the last hour with us and listening to us talk about the sport that we love and the NFL draft and all these obsessions that we have. So we will see you guys next time.